Let's not sugarcoat this. You're not stuck because you don't know what to do. You're stuck because you're afraid. And that fear, it's been bleeding you dry, drip by drip, day by day. You think you've been preserving your life by waiting for the right moment, the perfect clarity. But in truth, you've been watching your life pass you by from behind a wall of hesitation you built with your own two hands. Let's face the darkness together. While you've been analyzing, researching, debating, someone else already took what you said you wanted. They applied for the job. They launched the business. They asked that person out. They moved forward. They chose. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, but they chose anyway. And because of that one choice, their life is no longer the same. Meanwhile, you're still here, frozen, haunted by possibilities that never turned real, stuck in the echo chamber of your own mind, replaying the same internal arguments over and over again. And here's the horror of it all. Every second you hesitate, you're not just standing still, you're falling behind. Not because others are better than you, but because they were willing to act while you were still waiting for permission. Let me tell you something raw and real. You will never be fully ready. You will never feel 100% certain. And the longer you wait for that magical clarity to descend like a ray of light from the heavens, the more life you sacrifice at the altar of indecision, the graveyard of unmade choices. Picture this. It's 2 a.m. You're lying in bed. Your laptop casts an eerie glow in the dark. You've got 15 tabs open, Reddit threads, comparison charts, old text messages, YouTube advice videos, TikToks of people living the life you want. Your Notes app is a graveyard, a cemetery of half-written goals, abandoned pros and cons lists, and reminders of what you should do. But you haven't done a damn thing. Your mind is racing. Your chest is tight. You tell yourself you're doing the research. But deep down, you know the truth. You're not searching for information. You're searching for escape. From fear, from failure, from responsibility. And it's killing you slowly. Because this isn't just about decisions. It's about identity. Who are you when no one is watching? When the pressure is mounting? When the world expects you to decide, but all you do is stall? This is what paralysis looks like in real time. And it feels safe. But it's not. It's a quiet death. The kind no one notices until it's too late. The delusion of certainty. You think if you just had more information, you'd be able to choose. If you just waited a little longer, the path would light up clearly. But that's a lie. Certainty is a fantasy. There will always be doubt, always be fear, always be a risk. But the pain of taking a wrong turn is nothing compared to the agony of never moving at all. So many people go to their graves full of almosts. Almost started that business. Almost took that leap. Almost became who they were meant to be. Do you want to be one of them? Or are you finally ready to live fully, dangerously, and deliberately? Because this is it. This is the battle no one sees. And the only thing standing between you and the life you want is a choice. The framework for freedom. Let's break the chains. Here's how you start reclaiming your life. Right now. 1. The 10-10-10 rule. Ask yourself, how will this decision affect me in 10 minutes? 10 months? 10 years? The truth is, most of what you're agonizing over won't even matter a decade from now. Suddenly that overwhelming pressure, it cracks. The fear, it loses its grip. Because clarity comes when you zoom out, and clarity destroys the illusion of catastrophe. Set a deadline. Indecision breeds an open-ended time. It thrives in maybe. It feasts on later. But when you set a deadline, a real one, you put fear on a leash. Not next week. Not after one more video. You get 24 hours. That's it. Decide or stay trapped. Decide or keep decaying in the waiting room of your own damn life. The 80-year-old test. When you're 80, when your hair is gray and your skin is wrinkled and your time is almost up, what decision will you regret not making? This question will gut you because it bypasses all the noise, social media, opinions, fear, and speaks to your soul. The soul that already knows what the right choice is. You've just been too afraid to face it. Almost every decision is reversible. Jobs, you can quit. Relationships, you can leave or heal. Majors, locations, ideas, you can adapt. But the one decision you can't undo is choosing nothing. The truth about fear. Let's be honest. You're not lazy. You're not indecisive by nature. You're scared. Scared that you'll choose wrong. Scared that people will judge you. Scared that you'll fail and fall behind. But here's the thing. Fear is a liar. It only has power if you feed it. It grows in silence, in stillness, in secrecy. You want to kill fear? Then drag it into the light. Speak it. Face it. Then move anyway. Because action cures fear. Every time. And perfection? That's a myth sold to you by cowards who never dared to try. The world doesn't reward perfection. It rewards action, effort, boldness. The world rewards the one who steps forward while everyone else is waiting for a sign. Lesson 1. Expose the real enemy. Fear, not lack of information. Core truth. You are not confused. You are afraid. Indecision is rarely about not knowing. It's about not wanting to face what you already know. Overthinking is fear wearing a mask and calling itself logic. The deeper problem. Most people believe they're stuck because they need more information. So they research. They write lists. They ask for opinions. They consume podcasts, videos, books. But nothing changes. Because the paralysis isn't caused by ignorance. It's caused by fear. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of making a mistake you can't undo. Fear of being responsible for your own outcomes. Fear of choosing wrong and having no one else to blame. So you stall. And in that delay, fear multiplies. It doesn't protect you. It poisons you. What's worse, this fear is subtle. It whispers that you're being wise, careful, responsible, but you're not being careful. You're hiding, and you're calling it strategy. The more you wait, the more you lose. Time, opportunities, confidence, energy. You're not saving your life. You're leaking it. The cost of avoiding fear. Think back to one decision you avoided for months, or even years. What does it cost you? Maybe it was a relationship you should have left, a move you should have made, a project you should have started. But instead, you stayed in place, telling yourself you were being smart. Now look around. Where are you? Are you proud of where fear has led you? This is the uncomfortable truth. Fear has already stolen years from you. And if you don't confront it directly, it will take the rest. Lesson goal. This week, your objective is to identify the fear that's keeping you paralyzed. Not the surface level excuse, the real fear. Until you confront the emotional weight behind your indecision, no amount of logic will help you move forward. Implementation steps. Step 1. Identify the decisions you've been avoiding. Write down 3 decisions you've been putting off. They can be about career, relationships, business, health, or personal change. Example: whether to quit your job, whether to end a relationship, whether to start a side hustle. Name the actual decision. Don't generalize. Be specific. Step 2. Name the fear beneath each decision. For each item, ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid will happen if I make this decision? Write the raw, unfiltered answer. Example: if I leave my job, I might not find something better. I could fail. People will think I'm reckless. I'll lose security. This is the voice that's been keeping you stuck. You need to face it directly. Then ask the second question: what will happen if I don't make this decision? You'll see the truth. Fear has consequences either way. Step 3. Separate real fear from imagined fear. Draw 2 columns. On the left, write practical fear. On the right, emotional fear. Now place each fear from step 2 into one of the 2 categories. Most of your fears will fall into the emotional column. This is where you expose fear for what it is, mostly imagination. Now take a step back and look at the list. Ask yourself, which fear is worth obeying? Because every fear you obey becomes your master. Mindset. Reframe. You do not need fear to disappear before you act. That's a fantasy. Fear doesn't go away. It fades only when you start walking into it. You do not need to kill fear. You need to stop giving it authority. You do not need permission. You need confrontation. Fear awareness practice. Each morning for the next 7 days, complete the following journal prompts. What decision am I avoiding today? What fear is tied to it? What is one small action I can take today despite that fear? This is not about bravery. It's about building the habit of movement. Fear thrives in stillness. Action starves it. Reflection prompts. Take 15 minutes. No phone. No distractions. Sit with these questions and write your answers with brutal honesty. What is one dream that fear has already stolen from me? How has fear shaped who I pretend to be? If fear had a voice, what lies has it told me about myself? If I removed fear from the equation, what would I do this week? Do not rush. Let the answers rise. You'll know the truth by how uncomfortable it makes you feel. Your challenge this week: choose one decision from your list. Break down the fear behind it. Then take one small, uncomfortable action toward it before the end of the week. Not a giant leap. A single move. One undeniable piece of evidence that you no longer serve fear. Because the moment you take that step, you begin to kill the lie that's been ruling your life. Fear will not announce itself with screams. It will whisper. It will sound logical. It will dress up as patience, wisdom, strategy. But you will know it by its fruit. You will know it by what it costs you. You will know it because it leaves you stuck. And the longer you wait, the more it owns you. But the moment you expose it, the moment you stop hiding behind logic and admit that fear is the true enemy, you take back control. This is where the war begins. You win it with awareness. You win it with one step at a time. You win it by deciding to no longer negotiate with fear. Lesson 2. Escape the graveyard of overthinking. Core truth. You are not analyzing. You are hiding. You are not planning. You are avoiding. Overthinking is a clever form of fear. It wears the mask of intelligence, but underneath, it is pure paralysis. You tell yourself you're being thorough, that you're making sure. But deep down, you know the truth. You're building a graveyard, a place where dreams go to die, buried beneath what if, not yet, and just one more article. The lie of productive paralysis. You think you're making progress because you're moving. Your fingers are typing. Your mind is spinning. The tabs are open. The notes are being written. But movement is not momentum. And activity is not action. You're not building a life. You're creating a maze with no exit, designed by fear to keep you from ever escaping. It looks like progress. It feels like control. But it's a prison. One article leads to another. One opinion leads to 5 more. One option becomes 100. And soon, you're drowning in possibilities, too terrified to choose one and burn the rest. The symptoms of a stuck mind. You know you're in the graveyard of overthinking when you revisit the same decision daily with no new action. You make lists, then make new lists to compare the old ones. You seek endless advice, hoping someone else will take the risk for you. You scroll inspirational content instead of living it. You lie awake at night with racing thoughts, but no plan. You avoid silence, because in silence, your cowardice screams the loudest. You've turned your mind into a battlefield, and you're the only one bleeding. Lesson goal. This week's mission is simple but ruthless. Break the loop. Escape the cycle of false progress and enter the realm of action. You will silence the noise, destroy the distractions, and confront the decision directly. Not perfectly, not completely, but actively. Implementation steps. Step 1. Choose one decision. From lesson 1, pick one decision that has been looping in your mind the longest. The one that returns every night when the distractions fade. The one you pretend doesn't matter anymore, even though you still feel the pull. Name it. Write it down. Circle it in red ink. This is the one you will attack. Step 2. Create a fear-free space. Set aside 1 hour this week. No phone, no tabs, no noise. Just you, the decision, and the silence. Open a journal or blank page and write down, what is the decision? What has kept me from making it? What do I already know, but haven't admitted to myself? Keep writing until the excuses dissolve and the truth emerges. Truth is always simple. Fear complicates it. Step 3. Cut the noise. Choose a day to do a full purge of all distraction-based research. Close every tab that leads you away from a decision. Delete notes that serve no purpose. Mute every source that floods you with more opinions than you need. Unfollow the voices that feed your paralysis. And most importantly, stop asking everyone else what you should do. No one else lives with your consequences, so no one else gets a vote. Make your world silent long enough to hear your own instinct again. Step 4. Create a 3-hour action sprint. Pick a time. Set a timer. You get 3 hours. In those 3 hours, you are not allowed to think. Only do. If it's a job decision, update your resume. If it's a business idea, build the outline. If it's a relationship, initiate the conversation. If it's a move, research one actual destination and list what you'd need to relocate. Your goal is simple. Create evidence that you are not stuck. Even one action kills the illusion of paralysis. Mindset shift. Every moment you delay is a vote for staying small. Every overanalyzed choice is a grave you dig for your own potential. Overthinking is your mind begging you not to fail. But what it doesn't understand is that staying here is failure, and you're already in it. You cannot escape the pain of action, but at least that pain leads to growth. The pain of inaction leads to nothing but regret. Reflection. Prompts. Sit with these questions and write the answers by hand. Let them sting. Let them bleed. What has overthinking already cost me? Who would I be today if I had acted when I first had the idea? What am I afraid will happen if I stop thinking and start doing? What will happen if I don't? Read your answers out loud. Hear the weight of your delay. Then feel the hunger that's been buried under your fear. Your challenge this week: do one bold thing. Not big, just bold. Choose one decision. Make one move. You don't need certainty. You don't need a full plan. You need to break the illusion of motion and replace it with force. Because until you act, you are just watching your life from behind a screen, scrolling past the version of you that could have been, but not anymore. Not this week. This week you step into the fire, not to burn, but to prove you still have heat in your soul. Final reminder: there is no secret system, no perfect plan, no missing piece of advice that will suddenly make it all click. There is only action, and there is only now. If you don't move this week, you'll wake up a month from now in the exact same place. Still wondering, still researching, still stuck. This is your chance to escape the graveyard, but no one will come drag you out. You have to climb, decide, act, or die still thinking. Lesson 3. Use the 10-10-10 rule to shatter pressure. Core truth. You're not drowning in too many decisions. You're drowning in the weight you've assigned to them. You've made every choice feel like life or death. But most of the pressure you're feeling isn't real. It's created by your imagination. The human mind is a powerful machine, but when ruled by fear, it turns against you. It amplifies doubt. It magnifies stakes. It turns everyday choices into existential nightmares. And so, you hesitate. Not because the choice is impossible, but because you've convinced yourself it must be perfect. That's the lie. And this lesson is where we break it. The illusion of finality. Most decisions aren't permanent. Most roads can be reversed. Most outcomes can be adapted. But when you're ruled by fear, you believe every decision is a cliff. One wrong step and everything ends. This belief paralyzes you. You delay. You agonize. You spin in circles for months trying to get it right, while time and opportunity slip through your hands. You need a weapon to pierce the fog. You need a tool to cut through the emotional chaos and expose the truth beneath it. That weapon is the 10-10-10 rule. Lesson goal. This week, your objective is to master a decision-making tool that instantly dissolves emotional pressure, clarifies your priorities, and forces your mind to see reality, not fear-induced fantasy. You will use the 10-10-10 rule to dismantle the illusion that every decision must be perfect. You will see through the panic, and you will act. The 10-10-10 rule explained. Ask yourself 3 brutal questions about the decision you're stuck on. How will this decision affect me in 10 minutes? How will it affect me in 10 months? How will it affect me in 10 years? These time frames strip away the false urgency and inflated drama. They expose what actually matters and what doesn't. Why it works. 10 minutes addresses the emotional discomfort you're avoiding. 10 months shows you the medium-term consequences of inaction or progress. 10 years forces you to see beyond fear, to legacy, regret, and identity. Let's make it real. Example, leaving a job you hate. 10 minutes. I'll feel afraid, uncertain. People might judge me. Discomfort level, high. 10 months. I'll likely have found something better, or at least be rebuilding something that's mine. Discomfort level, manageable. 10 years. I'll either look back with gratitude that I escaped, or live with bitterness that I stayed. Discomfort level, unbearable if ignored. Suddenly, the emotional chaos collapses, clarity rises, and the path becomes obvious. Implementation steps. Step 1. Pick the decision. Choose one decision that has been creating the most mental noise. This should be a decision that feels heavy, like it's defining your identity, your direction, or your worth. Write it down. Make it specific. Step 2. Apply the 10-10-10 rule. Set aside 30 minutes of uninterrupted time. Write the answers to these 3 questions in full. What are the real effects of this decision in the next 10 minutes? What are the likely consequences in the next 10 months? What will this choice mean for my life in 10 years? Do not rush this. Let the long-term perspective break the emotional spell of the present moment. Step 3. Circle the most dominant time frame. Once your answers are written, ask yourself, which of these 3 time frames am I allowing to dominate my decisions? If you're stuck in the 10-minute frame, you're ruled by short-term fear. If you're thinking mostly in 10-month terms, you're likely operating on pressure or expectation. If the 10-year answer terrifies or excites you, it's probably the truth you need to follow. Make the long-term voice louder. That's the one that sees clearly. Mindset shift. Short-term fear will always try to drown long-term wisdom. It's louder. It's faster. But it's not deeper. When you stay stuck in the 10-minute mindset, you live your life trying to avoid discomfort. When you operate in the 10-year frame, you start living for your legacy. Stop asking what makes you feel good right now. Start asking what your future self will thank you for. Because your future self is watching. And they are either preparing to applaud you or resent you. Reflection prompts. What is one decision I've made recently that was dominated by fear of short-term discomfort? How different would my life be if I had made decisions based on the 10-year outcome instead? What truth have I been ignoring because it feels uncomfortable in the short term? What would the version of me 10 years from now beg me to do today? Sit with the discomfort. It's not your enemy. It's your compass. Your challenge. This week, pick one decision. Apply the 10-10-10 rule. Then take one action based on the 10-year answer. Don't let fear convince you to cater to the next 10 minutes. That's how you waste your life. One comfortable moment at a time. Instead, sacrifice the short term for the long term. Pay the price now. Reap the reward later. That's how legacies are built. Final reminder. You do not need to be fearless. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be honest. The decisions you're avoiding are not as final as they seem, but the years you're losing by avoiding them, that's permanent. You've already wasted too much time fearing the short-term discomfort of a decision that could set you free. Stop looking for a painless path. Start walking the one that leads somewhere worth going. Lesson 4. Set ruthless deadlines to kill indecision. Core truth. Indecision thrives in open space. Delay is not a neutral act. It is a decision to remain stuck. The longer you wait, the louder fear becomes. And fear loves time. The moment you stop putting time limits on your decisions, you open the door to mental decay. You don't just pause, you rot. Not all at once. Slowly, quietly. Until one day you wake up surrounded by abandoned plans, half-finished projects, and years of your life you'll never get back. This is how potential dies. Not in a blaze of failure, but in the silence of hesitation. And the only antidote to hesitation is urgency. Not panic, not impulse. Urgency backed by commitment, backed by force, backed by a deadline. The lie of I just need more time. You've told yourself this before. I'm just not ready yet. I'll decide after I sleep on it. I need more clarity. No. What you need is a clock. What you need is pressure. Because the truth is, most decisions don't take weeks. They take courage, not time. The longer you wait, the more options you add. The more options you add, the more doubt you create. And the more doubt you create, the further you drift from action. Clarity doesn't come with more thinking. Clarity comes when the clock is ticking and the knife is at your back. Lesson goal. This week, you will learn to set non-negotiable deadlines for every decision you're avoiding. You will break the cycle of someday. You will condition your mind to move under pressure. And you will prove to yourself that motion isn't optional. It's required. Why deadlines work. When you commit to a specific high-pressure deadline, something shifts. You force focus. Your brain narrows in on what actually matters. You cut distractions. Time scarcity eliminates the luxury of noise. You create urgency. The illusion of endless time dies, and with it, procrastination. You flip fear on itself. Now the fear of missing your own deadline becomes more powerful than the fear of taking action. Your brain was built to survive. When you give it pressure, it performs. When you give it forever, it drowns. Implementation steps. Step 1. Identify the decision. Pick one decision you've delayed repeatedly. It can be big or small. What matters is that you've been stuck in analysis or avoidance. Write it down in one sentence. Make it clear. Director, unavoidable. Example, I need to decide whether or not to move out of this city. I need to pitch my idea to a potential client. I need to end a relationship that's no longer healthy. Naming it gives it form, and you can't destroy what you refuse to define. Step 2. Set a ruthless deadline. Now give yourself 24 hours, not a week, not by the end of the month. You get one day, no more. You don't need more time. You need to stop lying to yourself. Write the deadline down. Put it on your wall, your phone, your mirror, and say it out loud. I will make this decision by exact time and date. If the fear rises, good. You're doing it right. Step 3. Burn the safety nets. Tell someone. Post it publicly. Announce it to anyone who matters, or no one at all. But speak it into existence. This is about accountability. Because what you hide from the world, you abandon. And what you declare out loud becomes real. If you stay silent, you give yourself permission to back out. If you speak it, the pressure builds. And pressure is what you need right now. Step 4. Prepare for resistance. Understand this. Your mind will rebel. It will offer every excuse in the book. It will say, you're being reckless. It will say, you should sleep on it. It will say, let's wait until next Monday. This is the voice of your old self, the version of you addicted to safety. Ignore it. Overpower it. This voice doesn't want you to live. It wants you to preserve yourself until you become unrecognizable. And you've already wasted too much time listening to it. Mindset shift. Deadlines are not restrictions. They are weapons. Used correctly, they destroy fear and build discipline. When you give yourself forever, you postpone the pain. But you also postpone the transformation. If you want to grow, you have to bleed on a schedule. You have to move when it hurts. You have to choose even when clarity hasn't arrived yet. Because the choice itself creates clarity. Every bold decision you've been avoiding is sitting on the other side of a deadline you refuse to set. That ends now. Reflection prompts. Write your answers. Don't rush. Don't filter. What is one decision I've delayed longer than I care to admit? Why haven't I set a deadline for it? What am I afraid will happen if I act before I'm ready? What has inaction already cost me in time, peace, and potential? What would change if I committed to 24-hour decision windows from now on? These questions are a mirror, and the reflection may sting, but pain is how you know you're still alive. Your challenge this week: Pick one decision. Set a 24-hour deadline. Declare it. Then decide. No retreat. No delay. No justification. This is not about perfection. It's about taking back control. Because the habit of delay becomes your identity. And the identity of delay becomes your destiny. Break it now, not tomorrow. Now, final reminder. The clock doesn't care how you feel. Life doesn't wait until you're comfortable. Opportunities don't pause until your fear calms down. The only thing that grows while you delay is regret. So either you choose your deadline, or the world will choose it for you. And it won't be on your terms. Set the timer. Feel the fear. Make the move anyway. Lesson 5. Face the 80-year-old version of you. Core truth. You're not afraid of making the wrong decision. You're afraid of becoming the wrong person. And you already know who that is. The version of you who played it safe. Who never took the leap. Who spent their life negotiating with fear and postponing purpose until there was no time left. That version of you is real. They exist in one possible future. And if you don't change the path you're on right now, you're going to meet them. Face to face. In a quiet room. Full of silence, missed chances, and haunting thoughts that begin with the words, "What if?" This lesson is your warning, and your opportunity to make sure that meeting never happens. The power of regret. Most people run from regret, but you're going to use it as fuel. Regret is one of the most powerful forces in existence. Not because it's painful, because it's final. Because once it sets in, you can't go back. That's why you need to bring the future into the present. You need to look forward with ruthless honesty and ask the question that rips through the noise. When I'm 80 years old, what decision will I wish I had made right now? That question cuts through fear, pressure, and social expectation. It bypasses your ego. It bypasses your fear of failure, and it drills straight into your soul. Because the 80-year-old version of you doesn't care about likes, followers, or temporary discomfort. They only care about one thing. Did we live? Did we honor the calling? Did we choose growth? Or did we waste it all? Lesson goal. This week you will bring your future self into the present. You will listen to their wisdom. You will hear their warnings. And you will use their perspective to break the paralysis of now. Because if you don't live in alignment with that version of yourself, you will become a stranger to your own legacy. Implementation steps. Step 1. Create the encounter. Sit in silence. No phone. No noise. Just you. Now imagine yourself at 80 years old. Where are you? What do you look like? What does your face say about how you lived? Is there light in your eyes or bitterness? Are your shoulders heavy with pride or shame? Now ask them, what did I waste time on? What would you give anything to go back and do? What do you wish I had the courage to face? Don't force it. Let the answers rise. Write them down with brutal honesty. You are speaking to the version of you who knows exactly what mattered and what didn't. Step 2. The decision audit. Take the major decision you've been avoiding. Write it down clearly. Now ask the 80-year-old version of you. Would you regret not doing this? What would our life look like if we had said yes? What did we gain by playing it safe? Was the discomfort we avoided worth the life we missed? Their answers will be simple, unapologetic, and most likely, uncomfortable. Good. Discomfort is truth trying to rise to the surface. Step 3. Write the letter. Write a letter from your 80-year-old self to your current self. Let them speak without filters. Let them be furious. Let them be proud. Let them be wise. This letter is not for comfort. It's a confrontation. Let them say everything you need to hear, everything you've been pretending not to know. Then read it back out loud, alone, and listen to the voice you've been ignoring. Step 4. Define the path of alignment. Now, ask this. What would it look like to honor my future self today? Not in theory, in practice. What habits would I start? What decisions would I make? What conversations would I have? What lies would I stop telling myself? Your 80-year-old self doesn't need you to be fearless. They just need you to stop lying about what you want, about who you are, about the time you think you still have, because that time is vanishing right now. Mindset shift. The only person who will live with the consequences of your decisions is you. Not your friends, not your family, not society. You will wake up next to your results. You will look in the mirror and see the version of yourself you chose to become. The world won't punish you for wasting your potential. It doesn't care. But you will. The day will come when there is no time left to change your path. And when it does, you'll either sit with peace or suffocate in regret. So ask yourself, what's more painful? Temporary discomfort or permanent disappointment? Choose wisely, because you're not just choosing for today. You're choosing for the man or woman who will live with it 50 years from now. Reflection. Prompts. If I died tomorrow, what would I regret not doing? What decision am I avoiding that I already know my older self would beg me to make? What truth have I been silencing out of fear of judgment or failure? What kind of life am I building? One of comfort or one of courage? Don't give surface answers. Go beneath the noise. Dig until it hurts. That's where your answers live. Your challenge this week. Have a conversation with your 80-year-old self. Write the letter. Ask the questions. Listen to their warnings. Then take one action that aligns with their wisdom. Not tomorrow. Not after the fear calms down. Now, because if you don't honor that future self, you'll betray them. And they're the only person you can't lie to. Final reminder. The voice of your future self is soft, but it speaks with power. It knows everything you feared, everything you've wasted, everything you still have time to become. But only if you stop drifting. Only if you stop numbing yourself with comfort. Only if you choose now to live in a way that will make them proud. So face them, look them in the eye, and promise we won't waste another second. Lesson 6. Act publicly. Break the cycle. Core truth. Fear thrives in silence. Doubt multiplies in secrecy. The longer you keep your intentions hidden, the easier they are to abandon. Your brain knows how to protect you. It will convince you to wait, hide, hesitate. Because as long as your goals are private, there's no accountability, no witnesses, no risk, no exposure. But here's the brutal truth. What you refuse to say out loud, you will never follow through on. If you want to break the cycle, you must make your decision public. Not for praise, not for validation, for war. Public action forces pressure. Pressure forces follow through, and follow through breaks the cycle. Why secrecy is the real trap. You tell yourself you're keeping things private because you're not ready yet, because you're still thinking it through, because you want to make sure it's perfect before sharing. No, you're staying silent because you're afraid. Afraid to be seen starting small. Afraid to be laughed at. Afraid to be wrong. Afraid to commit to something that might not work. But silence is where goals go to die. Ideas buried in isolation become regrets. You don't need more privacy. You need pressure. Because when the world knows what you're doing, you either follow through or expose yourself as a liar. That's the kind of weight you need. The kind that forces you to rise. Lesson goal. This week, your mission is to step into the light, to declare your intention, to stop protecting your fear with silence, and to make public commitment your weapon of transformation. You will not whisper your goals anymore. You will shout them, and you will move, not when you feel like it, but because you said you would. The psychology of public action. Why does going public matter? It kills the illusion of safety. You're no longer protected by secrecy. It increases follow-through by force. Research shows public commitment boosts execution by over 80%. It forges identity. The moment you declare it, you become it. It removes the option to quit quietly. And that's exactly what you need. Going public is an act of war against your comfort zone. And the version of you that's been sleeping there must be destroyed. Implementation steps. Step 1. Choose the decision. You've been building toward this all week. You've faced fear. You've dismantled overthinking. You've applied the 10-10-10 rule. You've consulted your 80-year-old self. Now you know what needs to be done. Pick the one decision, goal, or commitment that matters most right now. Don't pick 5. Pick 1. One real thing you've been avoiding. Step 2. Declare it publicly. There are no loopholes here. You must declare it. You must speak it, post it, or tell someone who will hold you to it. Say, I'm applying for the job by tomorrow. I'm launching this project on Friday. I'm ending this relationship today. I'm starting my new routine now. Keep it clear. Keep it simple. Keep it real. And once it's spoken, it becomes law. Step 3. Attach a deadline and share that too. Now that you've declared your decision, set the date and tell the world. The power isn't just in the declaration. It's in the clock that follows. You've told them what. Now tell them when. You are creating an arena for battle. And once you enter, there is no turning back. Step 4. Create stakes. If you want to truly force change, you need pain for failure. You need pressure. Attach consequences to inaction. This could be financial, social, reputational, physical. Send money to someone with instructions to burn it if you don't follow through. Promise a friend you'll perform something humiliating if you back out. Bet on your own execution. Your brain will not act unless it senses risk. So give it something to fear. Something greater than the fear of trying. Mindset shift. You've lived long enough in the shadows. You've whispered your potential in the dark. You've let fear disguise itself as humility. But none of that made you free. There is no honor in hiding, no glory in secrecy, and no transformation in silence. If you want to become someone new, you must kill the old version. And you do that by exposing yourself to the fire, not later. Now, the moment you say it out loud, everything changes. You're no longer allowed to pretend. You're no longer safe. And that's when you finally begin to live. Reflection prompts. What decision or goal have I been too afraid to say out loud? What lie have I been telling myself to justify staying silent? Who could I tell that would hold me to my word? What's the worst case scenario of going public? And is that worse than staying stuck? What version of me dies the moment I finally speak? Don't write for safety. Write to confront yourself. Your challenge this week. Pick your commitment. Declare it publicly. Set the deadline. Create consequences. Then move. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for fear to disappear. Use fear as fuel. Because the world rewards those who act in the open. It rewards those who step forward, trembling but unshaken. It rewards those who are bold enough to say, "This is what I'm doing. Watch me." And when you act publicly, you not only break the cycle, you bury it. Final reminder. You've spent enough time thinking, enough time hiding, enough time being the person no one remembers because you never said what you were really here to do. No more. Speak. Declare. Move. Because the future belongs to those who burn the mask, destroy the escape hatch, and stand naked in the fire of accountability. This is where the old you dies. This is where the new one begins. To the returning warriors, you already know what this is. You've been walking through the fire, bleeding for your future, facing the mirror without flinching. And every time you come back stronger. You are the resistance. You are the movement. To those new to this isn't motivation. This is warfare. This is where comfort dies, and your true self is carved from the chaos. If you're tired of playing weak, tired of running from your reflection, tired of living someone else's script, then subscribe. Join the GrimFace movement. We don't chase hype. We build legacy. We don't wait for approval. We take ground. This is your initiation. Welcome to the other side. Subscribe. Comment below. What are you facing head-on this week? And remember, the world won't hand you freedom. You'll have to rip it out of its hands. GrimFace never flinches. GrimFace never folds. GrimFace rises.